Hey everyone, welcome back with Beano Mac, where today we're going to continue our playthrough of Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks with level 7, the Netherrealm. And as you can see though, we are starting in the Wastelands, but we're going to transition from here to the Dead Pool to the Netherrealm. And the reason for that is as you can tell, this episode in particular is much shorter than every other level in the entire game. And you'll see why when we get to the Netherrealm. But first we got to head through to the Dead Pool, but I think we're going to take this guy out. And last episode I ended it off on a cliffhanger, back to, episode 7 of me complaining about the things I love. I was talking about the modern games characters, and it really started with the 3D era, I think, in which they kind of change character stories a lot. I think some people like this, some others don't, and it's a weird thing in which I'll explain what I mean. And you guys, I'm bringing this point up not only because, like I said, I like to just complain about things I love, I guess, apparently, but also I just love having debate, and I love hearing people's opinions on things, things that I love. So, if you disagree with me or anything like that, don't take any of that stuff personally. And yes, I am aware Reptile's model is still messed up, so when we get to the Netherrealm, if it's still not fixed, we will, we'll just have to restart the game or whatever. But, yeah, so as far as characters go, I think in the 3D era, I think they kind of started to get crazy with the character deaths. So we already kind of had Johnny Cage, because in the original story, of MK3, Johnny Cage dies, and then he's brought back to life in order to help, when Earth is being invaded by Shao Kahn's militia after this and stuff like that. He was actually killed by Multality, Shao Kahn's extermination squads, and then when he helps end the fight against Shao Kahn invading Earth, he then goes back to heaven. But then in MK4, Shinnok comes out, and Johnny Cage has to come back down, and this time it's a permanent stay to obviously, of course, help. For it's the fate of the not just Earthrealm, it's the fate of the realms and stuff like that with Shinnok. So what the hell's going on here? Must be another glitch. So that was kind of one of the only real character deaths I think they had at the time. But then I remember, I guess I don't think they I forget if they specifically say it or not, but Movado, he has to hook swords in Deadly Alliance, and in his bio, I believe he says they got him from Cabal, and I think it says he killed him, but I can't remember, it's been a long time. But then in Deception, Cabal comes back, so he gets his revenge, and you can see Movado in his bio has been killed by the hook swords again. So Movado died, but then they're all fine and dandy, and later entries and Armageddon and stuff like that, and there's just a lot of weird stuff. Wu Kang, he dies, but he comes back as a zombie. Raiden dies and comes back in Deception as Dark Raiden, and it was somewhat new, so it hadn't outworn its welcome, and they did it in cool ways. Wu Kang was a zombie. It was the death of what regular Raiden led to Dark Raiden, kind of like a new take on the character and stuff like that. But that said, they were definitely using death very loosely, and there were other examples too, Suhao, he died in Deadly Alliance, the same game he came in, his debut in, and then he came back in Armageddon, no issues or anything like that. Goro, he apparently died in MK4, but then he came back in Mortal Kombat Deception, after he got jumped by Noob and was saved by Shao Kahn and stuff like that. I don't know why, but it was around this time in which deaths of characters were definitely the worst at that point in the series, because they were not treated for the most part with respect at all. But then when it came to the modern games, they had death again, and it felt like in MK 2011 it was going to lead to some big things, but then it kind of didn't. You know, like, yeah, they had the Revenants, but I mean, then they just kind of went back on the decision.
Raiden, how is it that we can enter and survive in the Netherrealm? I thought only evil or tainted souls could enter this realm.
What do you think has happened to your souls every time you have killed while on your quest? Your souls have become tainted. You must be strong enough to not let that control you.
You know, Raiden should not be able to do that. What? I thought he could not use magic in this world.
Alright, yeah, we're gonna save and we're gonna come back. Alright, we're back. But I'll continue my talk about death after this cutscene with, well, you'll see who it is in a minute. Get that secret there. And I'll talk more about the Revenants. Pretty fitting with the, you know, the Netherrealm.
Who's that?
Don't take another step, or I'll stop you myself.
Sub-Zero? What happened to Scorpion? I thought you were after him.
I was. Scorpion is still here, but I will not allow you to face Noob Saibot.
Noob Saibot? For all we know, this could be Shang Tsung. He's trying to keep us from getting the key to save Earth.
Do not worry. He does not serve Shang Tsung. He is possessed by one of the Elder Gods. There is more here than just Shang Tsung's attempt to invade Earthrealm. The gods are involved.
How do you know Noob Saibot is not part of this?
Because I think he is my brother.
The dramatic camera zoom.
Shang Tsung defeats Scorpion.
Where is he?
The Netherrealm is infinite in size, but Scorpion will find you if you are here in this realm.
If your brother is possessed, how can you help him? He will most likely try to kill you again.
I will find a way to free him.
That could take a long time.
As long as it
I love how
takes.
irritated he
Finding
sounds about somebody
Scorpion
else's
should not be
situation.
hard. He wants to kill you.
But yeah, that's pretty much the majority of the cutscenes in this level. This is one big room. That's why it's such a short level. It's literally just a boss fight with Scorpion, which is definitely the longest. But that's why this episode is so short. So I kind of tacked on the Deadpool and the end of the Wastelands area onto this episode. But yeah, as far as the Revenants go, I mean, it's cool that Scorpion got saved. Jax and Sub-Zero got saved after in MK10 and stuff like that. You know, they went from Revenants back to humans and stuff like that. And, you know, not all of them got saved for whatever reason. But, I mean, it did feel like they kind of regretted their decisions in a lot of ways. Like, Sub-Zero, for some reason, even though he was Cyber Sub-Zero in MK9, he just somehow wasn't a Cyber Ninja in MK10. So they went back with that. And then they kind of just went back on the whole Revenant thing with Sub-Zero 2, which could have been a very interesting thing. Two very interesting changes into the story, and they kind of just said, screw it, we're just going to go back to the status quo. And the only character I think they really did a good job with, as far as the Revenant goes, is Jax. I think I do like how they really did add that to his story and whatnot. Then, yeah, I mean, it just felt like at that point, by like Mortal Kombat 9, it felt like, you know, I think it was stupid that everybody kind of died all the way till at the end and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of, I think they made Sindel look a little too powerful with that, especially her just one-shotting everybody. And then eventually, yeah, in MK10 and, you know, the comics, all the 3D era, that's where it kind of got to the point where everybody who were fans of the 3D era characters and hopeful, you know, they would do, you know, have a redemption arcs, kind of like Striker and MK9, which, you know, he would appeal to fans again. You know, it kind of was just dashing the hopes because, you know, guys like Suhao, Movado, Moak, Draman. I think Draman is cool. And even if you think those characters are lame, it's still, I think it's even more lame to, instead of just wanting to try with those characters, just saying, yeah, haha, see, they were terrible, you know. And just kind of going, yeah, you know, they suck, so yeah, they don't ever, might as well just have them die every single time they ever appear and on screen. And, you know, that's kind of what happened with the 3D characters for like MK10 and 11. It was kind of just, well, they're not in the game, so we're just going to have them die. MK11, another perfect example. I mean, everybody just kept dying over and over again. And then they had the whole thing, even like the freaking Conquest character that you play as in Conquest, completely unrelated to the story mode. I mean, even he dies in the DLC for some reason. Like, they just love having all these characters die for no reason. Ermac dies in the crypt. Kenji is apparently dead in the crypt because he's not in the game story. I just don't. And then even MK1, they have everybody dying on the pyramid at the ending thing there. Even all the combat kids. And they got kind of embarrassingly humbled and all this other stuff. And whenever anybody dies, it feels like it's not that they just die. It always feels like they get embarrassed in some way, or it's just something stupid. You know, like it's never just like, oh, it's a cool battle to the death. It's either they get one shot, or they're embarrassed, or I think that's kind of what irritates me about a lot of it. Because it's just like, hey, this character's not in the game, teehee, you know. We have, you know, fans have spoken about how they dislike certain things like the combat kids or, you know, 3D air characters, so don't worry, we'll just kill them off and, you know, the most embarrassing ways for their characters type deal. I don't know. And then they just get brought back later eventually, so it's just, I don't know. It's always just kind of weird with death in Mortal Kombat. And on top of that, I get it that they're doing new timelines all the time, but they also, like, it makes sense to, okay, we're doing a new timeline, the character's gonna change. But they always change the backstory before it ever makes sense. So, like, okay, in this new timeline, yeah, it turns out, you know, Sindel was, you know, just a slut queen the whole time. She hated Jared, killed Shao Kahn for power and all this other stuff. But then, like, when you change it like that, you're also changing the story of the other timeline, I feel like, because you're saying, oh yeah, you know, it's not just this timeline where she betrayed Jared. Wouldn't it technically count for the original timeline too? You're essentially turning her evil at that point, or maybe I'm just getting it wrong in that sense. But then I feel like it's the same way with, you know, other characters as well. Like, a good example of how, like, a change took place that doesn't affect things, like Cyber Sub-Zero, right, in MK9. He was different because they actually changed the event of the timeline, where instead of Smoke, it was Cyber Sub-Zero, so now you got to see that what-if. But, I mean, if the Cyber Initiative happened before the MK1 tournament, then it wouldn't really make sense, right? If you get what I mean? So I feel like they just kind of changed the backstories of the characters as a whole with these timelines, and then it kind of just, like, it felt necessary, you know, even before Armageddon came out. They were like, hey, yeah, I think it was, you know, after Deception, they were like, yeah, listen, we're gonna reboot the timeline for the new generation of consoles and stuff like that. So, you know, obviously it was planned at that point. They wanted to reboot the franchise for whatever reason. It was probably due to something like maybe the 3D era game storyline wise. They just weren't, you know, people weren't really receptive to it. And they couldn't really, I think when they tried to make like a next generation Liu Kang, as they say, with Shuchenko and Kung Lao, I just don't think it worked out well for them. But yeah, Mortal Kombat, like I said, in the 3D era, they even have a history of, you know, which is my favorite era, which I'm throwing it out there, just you know, saying, hey, you know, I understand my era isn't perfect either, you know, not an entirely a hypocrite, but, you know, it's kind of just something in which they'll usually build to something and then they'll just change their minds at the last minute. And I think it's just getting worse from game to game, and they do weird, crazy stuff, you know, like now they got like timelines. I mean, I thought it made sense in the original timeline to go to the alternate timeline to change it up because you're rebooting the franchise. I thought it was a great way to do it. And it was under the assumption of, all right, we're going to do this and it's going to lead to different things in this new timeline. We're going to be, you know, sticking with this timeline for a while. And yeah, then they just kind of, that didn't really happen. You know, after MK10, and it seemed like they weren't able to do the next generation of fighters to where people liked it. It seemed like they kind of just gave up on, you know, trying to make these characters likable, and, you know, they abandoned their plan. So it was like, all right, well, we're going to do another timeline, you know, we're going to reset it with MK11. And then MK1, I mean, they have, like, you know, I always hate time travel and stories and stuff like that. So I hate how they had, you know, how do you have the Master of Time like Chronica and MK11, and she gets beat? I mean, she literally manipulates the fucking timeline. That's why, I don't know, it's ridiculous. I'm going into a whole bunch of stuff. I actually really enjoyed MK11's story up to like around the ending, to be honest. But I think they're too busy trying to make like holy shit moments in the story rather than a cohesive story that makes sense and like, okay, this is what we're leading to, this makes sense, and all this other stuff. Whereas, you know, you can say, yeah, you know, fighting game stories were never that exciting, yada yada. I think there's definitely excitement and simplicity if you're telling a good story, and fair enough. I mean, most people say fighting game stories aren't interesting, so obviously I'm in the minority, but I don't know. I miss I think the original timeline is my favorite as far as this goes. And even like MK1, I haven't played it, but it seems like they changed up the characters quite a bit. And with the timelines, it seems like they always make it in a way like where they kind of just keep hitting reset over and over and over and over again. So the characters don't ever grow. And that's kind of one of my main issues with Mortal Kombat at this point. Is the characters don't really grow because you keep hitting reset and you keep changing their backstory in a way, and they kind of just, I think, made the characters now in which they're just movesets or, you know, somewhat cohesive designs in a way. And I just, when you remove the character and all that other stuff, it's just not, you know, it makes it to where I can't gravitate to them anymore, you know what I mean? Like, I loved Ermac in Deception because not only did he have the cool moves, but he was kind of making a face turn in that game, becoming a good guy. And then we got to see how cool he was in MK9, the reboot. You know, we didn't get to really see that side of him in, you know, the original trilogy, obviously, because, you know, his story wasn't developed as well as then, but they still stuck to the core concepts. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm probably in the minority with it because people seem to love the modern MK stories and stuff like that, but I just hate how it seems like it's always kind of hitting reset with these characters. But I am running out of time for this rant. I pretty much said everything I wanted to say though, but thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Check out next week's episode for the finale. But above all else, please remember to have a nice day.